All right, these are some of the questions that have been passed on. First of all, someone asked if each of our speakers could share quickly how you and your wife met. How did you and your wife meet? And I guess we should start on the end. That'd be great.
Well,
you have to hold the mic close.
Hold it close? Okay. We met, I think the first time we met, I was a sophomore at Crown, and Nicole was still in high school. She was a senior in high school. And Dee and Dave were going away, and me and a friend were house sitting. We're house sitting for that. That's against the rules now, probably.
And she was one of the top students, and so we were very suspicious about her getting interested in you.
Yes. And so I remember they were going on vacation, and it was me and another gentleman, now pastor, and we both went over there, took care of the farm and all the rest of it, and that's when I first met Nicole. But can I share the whole story? Can I? All right, very quickly.
I was in love with him for a lot longer before he liked me. So I just
What
have to say
was
that.
wrong with you?
It was all my idea.
It was our mother's recommendation. Our mothers, they said we needed to marry. My mom told me, Dee told me, and they had it all planned out. But I always thought, I had met Nicole, she was a senior in high school, so I always thought of her as like little Nikki, and not, nothing but a friendship. But then there was another a young man she was seeing.
You know, now you're an Italian, and you're going to go into all the ingredients of the cake.
Every detail.
Very
quickly.
So leave the details, maybe some of those details off.
She sent a picture to this guy and was talking with her girlfriends, and they asked, what did he say about your picture? And she said, he said the picture was nice. And for some reason, I overheard that, and I said, you know what, you need to be with someone who thinks that you're beautiful and that loves you, and I just went on and on. And as I was going on and on, I thought, man, I feel that way about her.
Now that's a good place to stop, right there.
Yeah, right there. That's it. That's it.
Whose turn? Mine?
Yes, sir. Your turn.
Well, Kay was in a women's prison. I think you were on death row. I may have this story wrong. My mind is not what it used to be. Actually, it is an unusual story. I had finished school at Auburn University, and before I went off to professional school, did some research for Georgia Tech, and you were at a Christian college. They asked me to teach a chemistry class, and
You have to get that microphone a little closer so that the people who want to hear this can hear it.
Okay. All right. I'm calm now.
You were her teacher?
I'm talking.
It's on.
I was her chemistry teacher. Wow. Yeah, chemistry. Which went to anatomy, physiology. All right, I'm done. Yeah. No, and so I was there, and I thought she was a special lady, and she had to drop out of the class, so I made up for it by marrying her. And I went off to Kentucky. She joined me a year later, and that was 32 years ago. There you go. Good job.
And they got two beautiful children, and they do have a wonderful home. I've spent many nights in it, and she's a great cook and all those things. I like for all of you to get some buses rented. Just go up and see what they're doing up there. What'd be a good time for us to come and see that gentleman's farm?
I need a lot of help in the summertime on the farm, so come on and help.
Yes, she's going to make you feel like she's a canner and all these things and got her own garden and he's got everything. Listen, it just makes you not want to go home, but it's great. I'd forgotten that you were her teacher, chemistry teacher. It got explosive. Good.
All right, well, Cindy and I met in 1976, I think it was. I came to her church in Virginia to do an internship one summer for 6 weeks, and just came to spend some time there, knock doors. The pastor asked me to train some of their young people and take them soul winning and build bus routes. And so we really met and got to know each other through the bus ministry and building that bus route and building a relationship. And so she was a church piano player, and she said that I used to sit on the front row and make eyes at her. But it did seem like our eyes did catch from time to time. I was interested in a girl back in West Virginia. She was interested in a guy there, but I could tell there was no future in that. And I could tell he wasn't for her. God told me that. But anyway, we fell in love. We met, I guess, in June, and I proposed in August. I was convinced. But she didn't say yes in August.
I can't believe she didn't say yes. Now, Evelyn and I started dating in January and got married in February, but no, that's not true. I'm just trying to beat their story. Go right ahead.
All right. A couple has asked, would you please share one piece of advice for a young married couple starting out in the ministry?
Well, let me say before we answer that, people look at people like Dr. Campbell and think, is he a minister? You know, he is, I think, first and foremost, a Christian gentleman. And every expression of that comes out in his work. And I remember him praying over my x-rays. You know, and I really would rather him prayed over them than the pastor praying over them, you know. So let's put that question to him also, because as a layman, the greatest shortage is not the shortage of laymen who'd be willing to serve the Lord. It's the shortage of expectation in the minds of preachers who think they can do everything without him. And so I want Mitch to answer this too. Advice as a lay minister, and that's what he does. He's not known. He's known as a renowned physician and surgeon. But I see him first as a Christian and a praying friend, and you've heard him speak, and he has a heart for God, and he's raised 2 wonderful children, and they've got a Christian home. So let's include him in this too. All right. You want to start here, Rick?
Yes, sir. I guess one piece of advice I would have is to maintain your relationship with your wife. And so often a pastor takes time for everyone else, but make sure you continue to have a date night, continue to don't neglect your marriage, keep the communication lines open. And I would say to the wives, a lot of times when you go and take a staff position or a church pastorate, a church many times will expect the wife to be almost an associate pastor. And I just want to encourage you wives that your main responsibility is to love your husband and to be a wife to him, because his ministry will be no stronger than your home. And I know many times we put great expectations on the wife, and I thank God for Cindy. She's so many things and more. She handles so many things at our church, and she writes my sermons every week. It really takes a lot of time, a lot of study, but anyway,
I thought that.
But just be a wife to your husband. Keep him happy. If you keep him happy, that's the main thing.
Who's next? Me? Oh.
Yes, starting out serving the Lord as a professional.
It's a fine question. Here's how I'm going to address it. I travel a lot. I talk more medically than I do Christian. I think I do less harm talking to medicine than Christian folks. And the truth is, a lecture I've been working on is the making of a master surgeon. I'm going somewhere. The people who are truly outstanding in surgery in their field have a common ingredient. they have a mentor. They have somebody who has taken them under their wing and guided them along the paths of life. And if I was giving you one piece of advice, I would tell you to find an older couple who's been seasoned, who's gone through trials, who has weathered storms, and you latch on to them, and they should lead you along in life, because trouble is coming. You're one flesh, you'll fight, you'll get tased.
He speaks from
I
experience.
had to do that. I had to do that. Why you tased me in my sleep is beyond me, though. So you find somebody with 20 years your senior, and you make them your friend. And you need a guy who's going to ask you tough questions. Nothing's off limits. And you better listen. That's my one advice. You want to add?
Very good, very good.
I would say, especially for those in ministry, you have to have that person. For us, we have 3 couples in our church right now. It's never too late, and never give up. Let me just say that right away. It's never too late, and their marriages were really ended. And they're both, the one couple, they're helping us lead the music. The other couple does all of the junior church. The other couple does all of our, they're wonderful couples now because God helped them through that. And they opened up to us as their pastor and pastor's wife. Here's the thing. If you're in ministry, who's that person? Brother Campbell brought it up. You have to have somebody. And if you're in ministry, there needs to be someone. You need to set them out so that the spouse doesn't get in trouble when they go to that person and talk. And you've already decided that's the ones. And don't let it be just happen to be a relative or just happen to be someone who's like geographically nearby. It needs to be someone you select that you really respect their marriage, their spirituality. You know they know the Lord and His Word and will help both of you and love both of you. And that person has to be set up so that you know you can run there when problems, they will come. And in our case, young couples came to us. We were their pastor. We were able to help them because they came. They had a place to come. And if you're starting out in ministry, sometimes you don't have that person. And so you have to intentionally find that person. And so you don't have a pastor. Set it up. It must be set up.
For me, 90% of that help has come from lay people.
Yeah.
And not preachers, but from lay people. Now, I've been under the shadow and influence of some of the greatest men I think that have lived in the last century. And that's, Lee Robertson and Dillard Hagen and lots of people. But my greatest help came from Robert Davis and Everett Wilson, Mel Hammondtree, and I'm trying to refrain from using the names of people in the church I'm pastoring now for near the last 30 years. How many of you are in the ministry? Would you raise your hand? You're in the ministry. Would you please stand? All right, I want to show you something. That's great. Thank you. Would you be seated? How many of you are not in the ministry? Would you please stand? Now, this is the strength of your church.
Amen. Amen.
This is where people are getting help. We put expectations on them like they're all full-time ministers sometimes. But they're working full-time jobs and supporting the ministers. God bless them. And putting up with everything else imaginable. They should be talked to with the greatest respect. So thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. The greatest resource God has on the face of the earth is the Christian layman and laywoman.
The next question is this. Please elaborate on the importance of mutual respect and honor for your spouse.
You want both parties? You want the band or the...
I think it'd be nice to hear from the ladies. Yes.
Let's let the ladies answer that question.
The question was, please elaborate on the importance of mutual respect and honor for your spouse.
Well, that is what I spoke on in my session this morning, was on respect. Respect is huge in a man's eyes, and if we disrespect our husbands, he is going to react to us in an unloving way. It's just the nature of the beast. It's just how it's going to happen. And so When Scripture says, see that a woman reverence her husband, it's not there as an option. It's there as a mandate. And it's, as I said this morning, respect is expected. It's not something that he earns. It's not something that he deserves, because many times a man may not deserve it. He may have blown it. But God didn't put requirements on there. He just simply said that we are to respect him. And when we do that, we reap the benefits. We reap the benefits fourfold many times. I have the utmost respect for my husband, not because of his position, not because of his status.
That taser has something to do with it.
No, I would imagine
respect
I'd
my
imagine you have
husband.
friends, Kay, who in the professional realm he's in, and their marriages are without that.
Exactly, but I was going to say I respect my husband because of what he said last night. When that man stood up here and spoke last night, I sat there as the wife that said, that's how he treats me. That's how he loves me. It wasn't just a sermon.
Wonderful.
It was a lifestyle, and that's a respect.
Wonderful.
I always think of what my kids are seeing happen in the home. We have little ones in the home, and I think it's, I watched my parents respect one another, and I think it's important for the children to see that also, to what they're going to expect in their own marriages, in their own lives.
Tell us a little about Liv and Frank. You know, we want to hear about them. How they doing?
They are doing great.
Is Liv still running everything?
She does. Frank keeps us on time, and Olivia runs the house. So.
Yeah, they're great kids. I think that's a great point. If you want to try to instruct them, they've got to witness it, don't they? Cindy?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. If you don't respect your husband, your children will see that, and they'll grow up not respecting their father, and then that will transfer into them not respecting their pastor, not respecting the Lord, and not loving the Lord and serving the Lord. So I just think that's very important, and we can build up our husbands or we can tear them down, and it's all in our hands and how we live and talk to our husband and talk about our husbands.
Well, my wife has the spirit of a racehorse, you know. I mean, she's full of vim, vigor, and vitality and spirit, and I love it. But submission does not mean silence. I think it does mean speaking in the right tone, at the right time, in the right place. But when you need to let him have it, let him have it. And she's let me have it. And I thank her for it. There's no telling how ugly and awful I would be if my wife hadn't helped me. And I thank God most of the time it's not in a public room or a public place. You know? It'd be harder to take, just as necessary, but harder to take. But I think you girls have hit the nail on the head. Go ahead and hit him on the head if you need to, all right?
All right,
One more question.
One more question. This couple asks, what do you suggest to do when a big decision has to be made and husband and wife are in disagreement? A big decision has to be made and husband and wife disagree. What do you suggest?
Well, you know, what about the man who settled that? They decided before they ever got married that all the big decisions he would make, you said big decisions, and all the little decisions she would make. But they've never had any big decisions to talk about. And so, what can you give us a frame of reference?
Well, I'm trying to read this person's mind. I would say, what do you do when the two of you disagree?
Give in. Live to fight another day. Yeah. Look, when you've been married 50 years, you may not even ask that question. What 23-year-old gave you that question? If you're going to make it 50 years, you surrender, man. You just surrender.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And surrender is winning. No, there has to be leadership. There has to be leadership. Let me tell you, we'll get them all up here and have a little more time tomorrow. Listen, let me tell you, the battlefield is marriage.
Yeah.
This is a training depot. They're having meetings in Washington, D.C. right now about transgenders in the military and same-sex marriage in the military. And Ash Carter put out a memo to every military base and said they wanted no complaint, that's the last one, no complaint about different biological sexes bathing in the same showers, so get used to it. I'm telling you, do you realize we're at war and the devil has struck the cornerstone of civilization? The cornerstone. And that's the cornerstone God himself laid in the Garden of Eden. So, you're not going to do anything more important than take care of your marriage and your home. Yeah. Nothing. And the people missing in action are men. Men of understanding. God bless you, folks. Great, great, great. These are wonderful people, aren't they?